Confirming availability, I personally believe that you should try to confirm availability at the beginning of the cold call. Now, this is actually a very debatable topic. And if you sampled 100 salespeople, probably about half would say that they don't confirm availability and half agree that you should confirm availability. What I mean by confirming availability is confirming that the prospect is available to talk at that particular moment. Now, let's dive into this a little bit because this is pretty important. So why do so many salespeople say you should not confirm availability? Well, their core belief is that if you ask a prospect if they're busy, it gives the prospect an opportunity to say, I'm busy. So you're basically inviting an objection, which is the objection of, I'm busy right now and I'm not available. So don't give them that opportunity. They say, just power through and proceed with the cold call until the prospect tells you they're busy. So that's the logic on why not to confirm. Now let's look at why you should confirm availability. And I'm basically on this side, which is when you confirm availability, however you do that, it's going to be by asking some sort of question. So when you ask a question to confirm availability, you're going to get more details in terms of just how busy the prospect is. Now, remember, I just said a minute ago that we need to assume that prospects are extremely busy. So we know they're busy. What we want to identify is, are they normal busy or are they crazy busy? If they're normal busy, then we want to try to proceed with our cold call and power through. But if they are crazy busy, that's not a good time for us to try to have our cold call. We're not going to have the attention or the time for the prospect to be successful. So if you know that the prospect's crazy busy, you almost want to stop and regroup and try that cold call on another day or another time. An example of crazy busy might be, let's say that the prospect is in the middle of a meeting and they thought your call was from someone else and they answered the phone. That's not going to be a good time to power through. Or maybe they're sitting in a restaurant, or maybe they're on vacation with their family. And if they're crazy busy, that's not going to be a good time for you to try to power through and execute your cold call. You're not going to have the attention or the time. If you identify that, then you should be okay with stopping and regrouping on another day. And when you confirm availability and you get the green light to move forward for a few minutes, then that actually buys you a window of time. And like I said, that gives you more comfort and more room to work with. Whereas if you're just powering through and trying to grab another minute, another 30 seconds, and you don't have that window of time, then it's going to be a lot more stressful, a lot more uncomfortable of a conversation between you and the prospect. Confirming availability also helps to build rapport. When you confirm availability, you're showing the prospect that you understand that they're busy, that you respect their time. And this takes a small step forward in the level of rapport between you and the prospect. And the more rapport you have with the prospect, the easier everything will be, not only throughout the cold call, but also throughout the sales process. So that's why I think you should try to confirm availability. And I think you should do it at the beginning when you're trying to open the cold call. And now, if you agree with that, let's talk about how to confirm availability, because there's some good ways to confirm availability and probably some not so great ways. And so the first one is by asking, is this a good time to talk? If we assume that prospects are extremely busy, it's never a good time to talk. So don't ask if it's a good time to talk. Did I catch you at a bad time? Same question. We know that they're busy. Also, did I catch you at a bad time is kind of a negative spin on that. I would recommend not using the negative words of bad time. Are you busy right now? We know they're busy. Don't ask if they're busy. Do you have a minute to talk? Not great, because you probably want more than a minute. So you're not really being completely honest in what you're trying to accomplish there. Do you have a few minutes? That's going in a better direction. Have I caught you in the middle of anything? So this is last question. This is actually the way that I think that you should try to confirm availability. So let's talk about this question of, have I caught you in the middle of anything? Have I caught you in the middle of anything, I believe, gets a more accurate read on if the prospect is normal busy or crazy busy. Because like I said, if you just ask, are you busy? That doesn't really tell you normal busy or crazy busy. Have I caught you in the middle of anything basically means, I know you're working, I know there's stuff going on, but are you in the middle of something to where your attention can't be diverted? So this question gives you very valuable information, and the answer may tell you whether it's normal busy or crazy busy. The other thing about this question is it's a very familiar, casual, less salesy, less professional type of question. Hey, have I caught you in the middle of anything? For example, this is something that one coworker would ask to another coworker when they want to chit chat. Let's say that it's Monday morning and a coworker wants to talk about the weekend. Well, they wouldn't want to bother someone that is, let's say, working on a report that's due by lunchtime. So they might peek the head in the office and say, hey, you in the middle of something? And the coworker might say, yeah, I'm working on a report, which would mean crazy busy. Or they may say, no, I'm okay. What you got? So it's a very friendly, casual way. And by communicating in that way, it can help to decrease the guardedness. The other thing about this question is it actually uses a psychological concept called pattern interrupt. Pattern interrupt refers to when you do something very routine every day, your mind and your body can sometimes go on autopilot. Think about driving home from work where you end up driving from the office to your home and you didn't even think about which way to turn because you do it so regularly, your brain isn't even paying attention. You're on autopilot. People can often do this when they're communicating. Think of a clerk or a cashier at a store where they say, how are you doing? Thank you. Have a nice day. How are you doing? Thank you. Have a nice day. They say that same thing again and again. So they're not even paying attention. They're basically like on autopilot. Well, you could test this out. If you go to a store, instead of saying, hi, how are you doing? Ask someone at a store, how's your day going so far? And you will snap them out of their autopilot and actually get a more genuine response. And they'll actually pay more attention with what you're talking about in that moment. So when you say, have I caught you in the middle of anything? Instead of, how are you doing? Or are you busy right now? It actually snaps them out of that autopilot and it uses a concept called pattern interrupt. And again, this question helps to create rapport, not only because it's respectful and shows that you understand the person, but because it's also very friendly and very casual, you take another small step forward in the area of rapport with the prospect. All right, so let's get back to this cold call process and drill into these 3 steps and go through it step by step and talk in more detail than the other training module on what's going on here in each of these steps. Starting with the first step, which is to open the call. Now, the way that a lot of salespeople will open a cold call is the first thing they'll ask is, how are you doing today? And I would say, do not say this at all. Remove this from your cold call opening. And the reason why is there's 2 reasons. One is, let's go back to the concept that the prospects that you're calling are extremely busy. So when a salesperson says, how are you doing today? And let's say that the prospect is trying to be nice. So they'll say, I'm doing fine. And then because they're trying to be nice, they may say, how are you doing? And then you say, I'm doing fine, or, I'm doing great, whatever. So at this point, there's been a back and forth and we don't know each other. So there's this empty conversation, empty gesture between 2 people that don't even know each other. And if the prospect is extremely busy, they could start to have a feeling of, this person is already wasting my time. That's not a good way to open the call. It's going to start to trigger guardedness and you can avoid that. The other reason that I would say you should avoid this question is what a lot of salespeople use to try to manufacture rapport. I talked about how to create rapport in a genuine way. A lot of salespeople will say, hey, how are you doing? And they're trying to be super nice to the person that they don't know to try to generate rapport, which might sound like decent logic. But the thing is that because all salespeople do that on cold calls, it makes you sound like a salesperson is trying to sell something. And because of our assumption that your prospects get sold to a lot, this can actually damage rapport and trigger guardedness. So I would say eliminate how are you doing from your cold call. Now, one caveat here is that this only applies to true cold prospecting where you've never spoken to this person before. If you've spoken to the person that you're cold calling at least one other time, you can ask, how are you doing today? Because if you've spoken on one other occasion, then we at least know each other, we've spoken before, and now I can ask you, hey, how are you doing? But if it's your first time speaking, do not ask, how are you doing today? So if we're not asking how are you doing today, you might say, well, what am I going to say in that opening? Well, that place where you ask how are you doing today is a great place for you to insert confirmation for availability question of, have I caught you in the middle of anything? And that looks something like this. Hello, Mark. This is Michael Halper from SalesScripter. Have I caught you in the middle of anything? So that small change, I'm asking a question. I'm going to gather information on how busy they are. I'm likely to create a little rapport, and I'm also eliminating that how are you doing today? So I'm decreasing the chances that I'm going to trigger guardedness and look like a salesperson. So that one swap can have a huge impact on your ability to open cold calls. In fact, one of the most common pieces of feedback that I get from our customers is that simple change of asking, have I caught you in the middle of anything, has transformed and drastically changed their cold calling efforts. So that one question we get a lot of really positive feedback on. Now, the interesting thing is when you ask, have I caught you in the middle of anything? There's only really 3 different types of responses that you can get. So the prospect may say, I'm fine, which is, so you say, have I caught you in the middle of anything? They may say, no, I'm fine, or I am, but what do you got? And so you get sort of the green light there, which is some version of I'm fine. You might get an answer of, it depends. So you say, have I caught you in the middle of anything? Well, it depends. Why are you calling? Or it depends what you're calling about. Or they may ask, what is this in regards to? Or you may get some version of I'm not available. So have I caught you in the middle of anything? Yeah, I am in the middle of something. Or yeah, I'm busy right now. Or yeah, I'm not available. So those are 3 different options. Now, that may look like 3 different directions that your cold call could go, but the reality is that there's only 2 different directions, 3 different responses, but 2 different directions, because 2 of these different responses, I'm fine and it depends, you're going to go to the same place with the same response in your cold call script. Let me show you what that looks like. So if they say any version of, yes, I'm okay, I'm fine, it depends, why are you calling, what is this in regards to, the next place that you go is to the purpose of the call. Now, before I discuss what to say when you're sharing the purpose of the call, let's talk about the other direction. So let's say that they say, I'm busy right now, or I'm not available. Then the direction you go is you're going to treat that like an objection response, which the objection is I'm busy. And so you have a couple different options that we recommend. So your first response is, oh, okay, I can be really brief, or I can call you back at another time. Which do you prefer? Or, okay, well, what's the best time for me to call you back? Now, they may say, well, call me this afternoon or call me tomorrow. Or what happens a lot of times, since that you're going to call them back and they're going to have to talk to you again at some point anyways, they may end up just giving you time right then and say, oh, well, what do you got? So you still proceed forward to the purpose of the call.